Hey guys, what's going on? I hope you're all doing great. Hope you've been having a good week. As many of you may know, a few weeks ago, my second little baby boy was born. So now we have two little boys. And I have to say, for all the single parents out there, I have so much respect. I can't imagine doing that as a single parent, taking care of one little one, let alone two or even more. Super, super busy. But today, I want to bring back a series that I was doing several weeks ago, maybe even several months ago, that I really enjoyed. It was a unique champion build, unique champion synergy type video series, and I enjoyed doing that. I like to build champions who are a little bit, I guess, off the beaten path, not so common, champions who maybe you always thought they were going to be a debuff champion, maybe like a Madame Saris, who you think, okay, well, she's specifically going to strip the enemy pretty fast, high accuracy. Well, I want to try testing out some champions who maybe we can swap up the roles a little bit and still make sense, right? Now, obviously, I don't want to build somebody who doesn't make sense at all in the new build, but today I have a champion and I have a few ideas of some champions we can work on and I have a few synergies with this specific champion that I want to test out. Also, if you guys have any you'd like for me to test out, anything you'd like me to try, either enter it in the comments down below, leave a comment, or send me a message on Discord. I would love to see your ideas. Also, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Very, very much appreciated. Today, I want to talk about Harvest Jack, though, okay? Now, I tried doing this video earlier. I tried doing a take, went through it, watched back at it, and I was like, I think I messed up on a few things here. So the other video, I had him built out with a typical build, what's probably most common. I'll go over that and kind of what my opinions on a typical common Harvest Jack build is. And then I want to show you guys the build that I put him in, okay? Well, first off, I guess we're going to go ahead and show you the build that I put him in right now, all right? Since we're already here, let's talk about it. So he has 100 and let's just say 101,000 HP. The speed doesn't really matter for what I'm testing him with. He's running with Kymar, so Kymar's placing a sleep anyways, so the speed's perfectly fine. Crit rate 100%, crit damage 220%, debuff accuracy. Technically, if I wanted him to land his debuffs, I would need higher debuff accuracy, right? Maybe even 200, maybe 250, just to land it on most people. But in my case, I'm not too worried about that. I just want to see, can Harvest Jack do damage? Now, there's a few things you need to keep in mind, okay? And I'm going to compare him with a champion who's a damage dealer, built to be a nuke champion for the arena, and just give you an idea of a comparison between the two, because champions like Solus, champions like Herndig, anybody who you can give either an increased attack, increased defense, they're going to probably hit harder, right? Because those champions get that buff, whereas champions like Harvest Jack, Sir Nick, those HP-based champions, there is no increase HP by 50%. If there was, that would be absolute insanity, but there's not, okay? But there's also no decreased HP by blank percent. So all the damage you see is going to be the damage that he deals consistently, right? So nobody's going to lower his damage unless they reduce his crit damage or reduce his crit rate. Nobody's going to lower his damage, but you're also not going to be able to raise it. So that's why I want to give a comparison with another champion who's built to do damage, but I'm going to use them without a buff as well. That's a big thing I messed up in the previous video, is I saw his damage. It wasn't as amazing as I was hoping it was going to be, but then I realized, crap, he has no buffs whatsoever. So his damage is actually a lot better than what I originally thought. These are his masteries. I have Helm Smasher down here. I took Helm Smasher because I'm quite a bit over 200% crit damage, so I went ahead and went with this. But you guys can do whatever you want. This mastery setup isn't necessarily perfect. I haven't used Harvest Jack a ton, and this is more so just a testing video still with you guys, and you guys let me know what your feedback is. Do you think Harvest Jack, once we get to the testing part of it, is viable? You think he could be a nuker, and do you think you can make even more interesting teams around Harvest Jack? I think he's a champion who definitely gets overlooked. Speaking of the more common build, before I had him built to do damage, I had him in defense and support. I ran down here to get Eagle Eye Mastery, and I basically had him super high HP. Well, high HP. I had him like 90,000 HP. I had him like 2,500 defense maybe. His base defense is pretty low at 925. His speed was like almost 200, and then his accuracy was closer to 350 mark. So definitely more accuracy. He was faster, more HP, a little more defense. That's more of a typical Harvest Jack build, I think. Throw him in his shield set, great utility, because this base HP that he has of almost 27,000 is very comparable to a champion we all know and love, except for me. I'm not a big fan of him. We have a history, I guess you could call it, but 22,000 HP, pitiful, right? Harvest Jack laughs at that. 23,000, we'll even round it up, and Harvest Jack is still cracking up, no problem. He has what, 27,000 almost with Harvest Jack. Now, Sir Nick is a little bit faster. He's a little bit quicker than Harvest Jack. Cernic, I think, has a base speed of 105, but hey, we're not worried about going fast. We're worried about hitting hard, and I think that's what Harvest Jack may be able to do. So let's go ahead and jump in here to the arena. First off, I want to show you guys an example of, well, I'm not really going to be able to do a match without killing everybody, I don't think. It's going to be difficult to find. Okay, this one. Maybe I can do this match without killing everybody. So we'll drop Solus, and we'll make a team that doesn't really make sense. We'll do this. Now, the reason why this doesn't necessarily make sense is because Herndig should be ran with a champion who does increase attack, right? So an Arbiter, whatever it may be. I have him running with a champion who does increase defense. The reason why is because my Herndig hits like an absolute truck, okay? He hits very, very hard. I want to show you guys the difference and kind of like what kind of numbers you can expect. Now, I'm going to use Herndg's A2 ability, not his A3. His A2 does hit hard, but his A3 may actually kill people. I don't know for sure. We're still going to do decrease defense and weaken, or I wish weaken, decrease defense and decrease attack. We're going to go ahead and reset cooldowns, use Herndg's A2 ability. This ability is fully booked. It does hit hard still. Let's go ahead and see in one-time speed. He's hitting for, and I haven't tested this out, 70,000, 84,000. Back out of the battle, let's see what he hit for on his A2. Like I said, Herndg hits like a truck, 149,000 damage, okay? Now, let's compare this to Harvest Jack. This team, we're going to be all neutral affinity. Granted, Herndg was strong affinity against Mashal. Not a big deal. Not going to make a huge difference. Let's go ahead and use Harvest Jack. So Herndg did what? 149,000 damage total. Let's see what Harvest Jack does. Like I said, no buffs. Now, obviously, if I had buffs for Herndg, he would be doing way more than what he did before. But this is the best way to compare it fairly. That also says that if you run Harvest Jack in a team, if you decide you like his damage, you don't have to worry about bringing a buff champion for him. You don't have to have an Arbiter fit in to do the buffs. You could have maybe a Sylar for decreased speed, though Harvest Jack does bring some pretty awesome turn meter reduction, some decreased speed and stuff, and we'll read his abilities in just a second. I more so want to get to the point as quickly as possible for anybody who's here just to see what this champion does. Now, Necrit buffed up Arbiter, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and see what happens here. Uses A3 ability, and the numbers to beat are what, like, I don't know, 150,000 damage. Let's see if we can get close to that. Zoom out a little bit. 42, 45. So, I mean, let's see what he does. Probably like 120. 141. That's actually basically the same, right? So Herndg did 149. Harvest Jack did 141. Though I think whenever you kill the enemy, the damage kind of stops off there. But you could obviously see the damage that Harvest Jack did was less than Herndg, but Harvest Jack has way more HP, way more survivable, and I think he's going to be a champion who's more viable when it comes to defensive teams, go second teams. Obviously, it's going to be easier time keeping Harvest Jack alive compared to Herndg, right? So let's go ahead and do this. We'll test this out one time just to give a little bit more additional tests. Let's go ahead and use Venus's A2 ability. We'll play with Harvest Jack more in the arena just to give him a better showcase. Use his A2 here. He's hitting for 92,000, 125,000. He's hitting for crazy numbers, right? Harvest Jack's not going to compare to this. I've already tested Harvest Jack here, and like I said, he doesn't do any comparable numbers, but remember, this is a champion who is HP-based. HP-based champions, if they hit as hard as regular champions, attack-based champions, that would be a little bit overpowered, right? So his A3 ability, let's see what's hitting for. It hits for 90,000. Okay. So as far as the damage goes, yeah, Herndg has a lot more room to grow because he has the capability of getting the increased attack. But as far as just raw damage output that Harvest Jack can produce, I think it's pretty solid. And when we go take a look at his kit, and you guys can let me know down below, do you think he's going to be a viable damage dealer? Now, when it comes to a nuker, do I think Harvest Jack could be a nuke champion for the arena? Not necessarily. The reason why I say that is because a lot of times, it depends on how you build your team, but a lot of times you really want to build your champions to nuke the enemy in one go around, right? Harvest Jack has the benefit, well, I guess the downside of not being able to do that because you can't give him that increased attack, increased defense, increased HP in his case, right? But he has very good stats that I think could make him very viable in a possibly a go second team with another damage dealer on your team, maybe a defensive team where you run with maybe like a Madame Ceres, because I think stripping the enemy and having maybe even a Cythalia, it doesn't really matter as far as who's stripping the enemy, but he has some pretty awesome abilities that synergize very well. If you can lower the enemy's buffs, take away those block debuffs and everything, and then he can start doing some really good work. Granted, his A1 ability, we'll jump back in the arena and play around a little bit more, but I want to give all you guys who are here for the main content first, give you guys some ideas and then we'll play around in the arena just a little bit more. I want to hopefully get you the point across as soon as possible without dragging it out too long. But let's read through his abilities, okay? Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of stealing one random buff from the target. Each hit also has a 25% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn if the target has no active buffs. This chance increases to a 100% chance if all buffs were stolen from the target, okay? Now this booked up goes from a 25% chance to a 35% chance, so he's probably stealing some buffs, right? Now you need accuracy to do this. My Harvest Jack currently doesn't really have very much accuracy, like I said. Probably 250 would be the more realistic approach. His A2 ability, attacks all enemies, places a block buffs debuff for 2 turns on targets under fear, removes any increased attack buff from the target and replaces them with a 50% decrease attack for 2 turns, removes continuous heal, replaces it with a poison, and basically the more continuous heals the enemy has, the more poisons are going to get replaced, right? Now, you're going to want to use his A3 first because this has a chance of placing fear, which synergizes really well with this. Granted, if you're using champions like Mashal, champions like Madame Ceres, anybody who can place fear on the enemy, you could go straight into using his A2 ability, really whatever you want. But you could get that block buffs place, which is so good everywhere. Block buffs is a very, very, very good debuff to have, especially when you're going against Swift Parry, just in general, right? Block buffs, very good debuff. His A3 attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a true fear debuff for 1 turn, also places a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and decreases each target's turn meter by 15% if the true fear debuff is placed. So, his final one out here has a 75% chance of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn if the true fear debuff is not placed. Now, obviously, his books are valuable. I think he takes like 14 books, so it's basically like a small library. It's not Pixneal level, but he definitely requires a small library investment of books. If you use him regularly, I think he's definitely worth it. 4-turn cooldown gets taken to, gets taken down to a 3-turn cooldown, so he's moving through pretty quickly. And when we jump back in the arena, I think you're going to see that his A1 actually does some pretty serious damage and can really be used to make sense of using him in these areas without much of an issue, to be honest. Now, this A3 ability, it says attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing true fear for 1 turn. Also, places a decreased speed for 2 turns and decreases each target's turn meter by 15%. This, since it's a period separating it, this makes me think that it doesn't have a percentage chance, it just lands. So once it's fully booked, everything's 100% chance. You just need accuracy check to get through it, right? So it's actually really good. Decreased speed is a very, very, very good debuff, especially when you pair it with a decreased turn meter, right? We'll go ahead and jump in the arena. We'll test them out a few more times. And like I said, this opens up for a lot of options. Like, okay, maybe I want to drop Sify. I don't really need Sify here. Maybe instead of Sify, I would like to bring a Lydia for some weaken, the decreased defense plus the weaken. Maybe I would like to bring all kinds of different options. Maybe I want to bring Astrolon for some stuns, for some more CCs. Maybe I want to bring Rosin. I don't know. You got a whole other option of champions you can bring because you don't need a champion to buff Harvest Jack. So I could bring really whatever I wanted. Make it perfectly fine. More CC, more damage, anything. Not an issue. Kymar slowing. That's why I can run Harvest Jack so slow. Now, is this a typical build? No. Is he still going to be able to do damage if you scale back his build? Yeah. But I don't think he's necessarily going to become a top tier arena nuker. I do think knowing that he can do damage definitely opens him up to the possibility of having more builds that make sense for him. Let's look at this A1 ability. This A1 hits very hard. Let's see. So his A1, this is the one that's stealing the buffs from the enemy. So we'll go ahead and do it against a strong affinity champion. 13,000, 11,000, 9,000, okay? That is some pretty good damage. Definitely some pretty solid damage. Almost took him out in one go around. And remember, that would be stealing buffs from the enemy as well. We'll go ahead and use his A2 here just to kind of see what that does. We'll strip everybody again. Kymar, pretty ridiculous in the arena. His A2 ability is going to go ahead and hit for 26,000, 30,000. Decent numbers. Not numbers where you can one-shot the enemies, move through the arena, just glide through no problem. Your attack-based, maybe even defense-based nukers are going to do more than Harvest Jack, for sure. But a champion who brings debuff threats, a champion who brings strip threats, and a champion who brings potentially even a damage threat, I think has enough threats where he could make sense in some teams. I'm thinking of building him in a team with Madame Ceres, giving him a shot. Maybe if you have Harvest Jack, you've been leaving him in the vault or whatever, maybe take him out. Maybe try to build him up. I mean, CVC is going on right now. Now's a good time to build him. Also, talking about his typical build, he is very popular in his shield set. Definitely makes sense in his shield set. Maybe even build him in a shield set, get him to do decent damage. That could work out good. I think my ideal build for him would be crit damage around the same. Probably have to drop him out of Savage Gear. I would like to get his accuracy closer to 250, somewhere around there. So he's applying the debuffs more frequently, and run him maybe with Madame Saris, get him speed tuned there, so that whenever Madame or Cythalia strips the enemy, Harvest Jack can come in, apply those debuffs, basically give the enemy a really difficult time to get things going. I think Harvest Jack has much more benefit on defense, and I don't think he's super weak to Warlord necessarily, because Warlord locks out your cooldowns, right? But Harvest Jack's A1 ability, stripping the enemies of their buffs, is very, very helpful, okay? Definitely brings enough of a threat where you have to consider, okay, I got to be careful with Harvest Jack when I go against him, ideally. And he has a lot of HP, throw in Immortal set, Guardian set. I think he definitely has a few different options he can run with. We got the decreased speed, the True Fear. True Fear is a super, super annoying debuff. Madame Saris plus Harvest. I think you're going to have a lot of debuffs going out. I think it's some potential arena defense stuff. Like I said, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to build him out. The downside is obviously that he's a Spirit Affinity champion. So a lot of these strong arena nukers are going to hit him hard because they're going to be strong affinity. If Harvest Jack was Force, you could use him on defense even easier. But like I said, I don't think he's going to be an arena nuker, a main arena nuker. I do think, though, that he does bring enough damage to make sense to bring him in as a threat of some kind. I would like to invest some books in him someday, but currently my book stash does not look very promising. And I got some other champions I think I want to book more. I got 9 books right now. Maybe I do. Maybe I go ahead and book them out, try them out some more. But I just want to show you guys basically what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on, and kind of a few more videos I want to put out on this channel about champions and unique builds, unique uses, because I think there's a lot of champions in the game who we get so tunnel vision into using them a specific way that we close off a lot of other options. A good example is Kymar. Kymar's been in the game forever, but until fairly recently, I mean, I don't know exactly when he started becoming arena meta, but he wasn't used in the arena a ton for a long time. I know just recently I started hearing about him more, but he's literally been crazy good forever. But until just fairly recently, not as many people have been using him. He's always been used for speed runs, but he's even good against Warlord. So he's an example of a champion who has great usages, whether he's fast, high accuracy, or slower with high resistance. So I kind of want to find some more champions. Maybe we find gold when we're going through this and testing out some new builds. So let me know, guys, in the comment section below if you have any ideas of champions I can work on. I would love to test them out. What do you think about Harvest Jack? Does this change your opinion on him at all? And did you learn anything new? Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.